Imagine. In another realm, under foreign skies, you stand with an empty pocket but a full heart. In front of you is a stone building. On its door, a blood-red cross. You enter. You place the silver in your palm before a silent clerk. No questions are asked. You are handed a parchment. Sealed. On its corners are symbols whose meaning you do not know. To someone else, it is a worthless piece of paper. But for you, it is heavier than gold. Because with that parchment, no highway robber can touch your silver until you reach Jerusalem. A modern convenience? Like the promise of an ATM. What if I told you this was done 900 years ago? Those who made it possible were the ones who held prayer and sword in the same hand. Monks who had sworn vows of poverty, yet were richer than kings and more powerful than empires. They built the world's first international bank among monastery stones. For them, it was a golden age. Until a king collapsed under the weight of his debt. Today we descend into the story etched in the shadows of the Knights Templar. And we will look at how that shadow fell onto the card in your pocket today. Now you can send money across the world without thinking about it. One touch. One click. Done. This is what we call modern finance. But 900 years ago, money did not breathe. It was not digital. It was tangible. It had weight. It clinked in sacks. It smelled. Think of the 12th century. You are alone on dusty roads. You are walking toward Jerusalem. Your feet are bleeding. There is only one city in your mind. One tomb. You have silver on your belt. But silver shouts, I am here. And those roads, not safe. Bandits lie in ambush. Tax collectors are greedy. Enemies are on every hill. What will you do? You cannot carry it. You cannot leave it. Then you see a fortress. Stone. Cold. A red cross on its gate. You understand, you are at a Knights Templar commandery. You leave your gold and silver. Again, no questions. Only that sealed parchment. For the ignorant, it is trash. For the knights, it is a vow. A promise. A key. The Templars invented what we today consider ordinary. The first ATM. It was the 12th century. But the idea was this: deposit your money in one place, withdraw it at the other end of the world. There were no plastic boxes like today. That would wait for the 20th century. But long before banks were born, the Templars bent time. Their system was simple. Like a sacred geometry. A pilgrim deposits his silver in a fortress in Paris. He receives a parchment. He walks for months. In Jerusalem, he enters another fortress. He presents the parchment. The same silver is given to him, as if it never moved. It was safe. Silent. Sacred. That fragile parchment was your only armor on the road. And across the sea, swords were drawn. Crusader armies were marching. Who were they? Christian warriors sworn to reclaim the Holy Land in the name of God. The 12th century was written in blood. And Jerusalem? Jerusalem was no ordinary city. It was the heart of the world. The place where the footsteps of Jesus sank into the earth. His tomb was there. The stones still whispered his name. But the Seljuks had arrived. Pilgrims were becoming victims. In 1099, Jerusalem was taken. With blood. With fire. And a Latin kingdom was born in the middle of the Middle East. But victory did not mean peace. Beyond the borders, there was anger. The conquered lands had not forgotten their owners. You left your silver. Weeks later, 1,000 miles away, you received the same silver. No bag. No fear of thieves. Only a coded parchment. And this single idea sealed the fate of finance. Even the poorest pilgrim could now reach the Holy Land without being robbed. The Templars rose. Castles on both sides of the Mediterranean. Massive compounds in Paris and London. A network historians call the first international bank. But the Crusades were expensive. Horses had to be fed. Castles had to be built. King's coffers were emptying. At Harim, only 7 of 67 knights remained. At Lafabai, only 33 of 300 returned. To equip a knight was a fortune. Armor, sword, horse, and 1/9 of France's annual income was thrown into this fire. That is when the Templars saw another door. They were now financing not only pilgrims, but wars. Nobles came. Kings came. Not for salvation. For gold. Who were they? They began with vows of poverty. No castles. No horses. But as victories came, donations poured in. Trust increased. And with trust came wealth. And one day, the warrior monks became something unseen in Europe, an international financial network protected by a private army. Castles stretching from Scotland to Jerusalem. The same red cross on every gate. Outwardly forts. Inwardly banks. And they did not spend what they collected. What entered never left. The system fed itself. Grew itself. What made them powerful was not gold. It was trust. Kings gave them land. Gave them tax rights. The Pope exempted them from tithes. A tax haven of the Middle Ages. They received shares from loot. Income from monasteries. And thus they came to manage more money than kings. And this was something no king could tolerate. King Philip IV of France. His treasury empty. The Templars at their peak. Their sanctity was cracking. In 1291, Acre fell. The last Christian stronghold in the Holy Land. The Templars were now holy warriors without a cause. They had castles. They had gold. But no war to fight. Whispers began among the people, where is this money going? It did not reclaim Jerusalem. They were no longer seen as monks, but as a stateless army. Loyal to the Pope, but to no king. For Philip, alarm bells were ringing. They were rich. Independent. And they were his creditors. But he could not strike them with the sword. They were too powerful. He had to destroy their reputation. In 1305, he made his own man Pope, Clement V. The Church became his puppet. Friday, October 13, 1307. A trap was set. All Templars were arrested. Charges: heresy, corruption, homosexuality. Letters were sent to other kingdoms. Most refused. But in France, the die was cast. Grand Master Jacques de Molay was imprisoned. 7 years of torture. Confessions. Death. In 1312, the Pope issued a decree, ad providendum. The order is ended. Its wealth shall be transferred to the Knights Hospitaller. On paper, it was fair. In reality, Philip took most of the land for himself and held it for 500 years. England did the same. Lands were distributed to kings, dukes, bishops. And everyone stayed silent. At that moment, feudalism quietly cracked. Power no longer came from land, but from money. Wealth could move without armies. The Templars had unknowingly driven the first nail into feudalism's coffin. Officially, they were erased. But their encrypted ledgers, trust networks, banking secrets did not disappear. They simply changed hands. In Florence and Venice, new bankers rose. The Medici. Like the Templars, they built branches: Rome, London, Bruges. They kept double-entry bookkeeping. They sold trust. Then the Rothschilds. They financed wars. They put empires into debt. Same model: branches, trust, ledgers. And Switzerland. The 1934 Banking Secrecy Law. Absolute secrecy. Immunity from external interference. A whisper of the Templars. Today, central banks, silent networks standing above nations. Basel, Frankfurt, New York. Once London, Paris, Jerusalem, now them. The Templars have been gone for 700 years. But enter a bank. They are there. Letters of credit equals ancestor of the credit card. Branch networks equals skeleton of international banking. Clerk's ledgers equals grandfather of Excel. Their vaults were emptied. Their symbols erased. But their ideas live on. And remember, they were not only bankers. They built hospitals. Fed the poor. They treated banking as responsibility. Today we call it corporate social responsibility. They were not perfect. There was corruption. There were political games. But this is not a war story. This is a story of capital, trust, and power. Kings destroyed the Templars. But they could not destroy their system. The next time you use an ATM, or send money abroad, know that the finger pressing that button touches the finger of a monk sealing a parchment in a fortress 900 years ago.